Welcome back to another exciting chess game analysis, and today I'm going to be teaching you the importance of learning your checkmate patterns, because in this game we had about 7 mates and 1 missed, and we had about every checkmate pattern available, and it just didn't happen. It didn't go through until the very end of the game, and if you know these checkmate patterns, well, you could save yourself a lot of time, a lot of brain power, and a lot of elo rating. Let's get right into it. We have e4, e6, and now we have pawn to e5, kind of an early advanced French variation. Pawn to d6, pawn to d4. Now if we had pawn to d5 after this, it would be an advanced French, but white has an extra tempo. So that's not a good move right there. Knight to c6, solid move, and now pawn to d5, attacking the knight. You gotta attack pieces in the opening. That's the rules. Now black has knight captures on e5, which gets it out of the way and takes the pawn. So that's a solid move. But instead we take this pawn. Okay, that's actually a better move. And queen captures. Now bishop to e6. Black is playing like a grandmaster so far. Queen moves out of the way, and now it's done. Now it's done. Pawn to a6, attacking the queen. You know, we had black was doing so good, and now black fell right into the trap of attacking a piece needlessly because this pawn is hanging. The pawn on b6. Now you got to be careful. Let's say this knight is protected. Let's say it's not hanging right now. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky. Rook can go over here. It's protected by the knight and the queen, and if this pawn was still here, it would restrict the queen's movement. So we could have a little bit of an awkward situation for white, and that's why sometimes these pawns on these squares can be a little poisonous for the queen, because the queen could get trapped on those. Obviously that's not the case here because the knight is completely hanging, and it's still hanging after this pawn falls. That is a free knight right there. Okay, queen captures on c6 with check, bishop blocks, and queen goes back out of the way, and now this pawn is really weak. Okay, we have bishop defends. Now bishop to c4, attacking the pawn. Knight to f6, attacking the queen. Got to attack a queen. Queen moves out of the way. Castles. Oh, I skipped to the end. Oops. All right. Where were we? I'm not editing this. Too lazy to do that. Okay, we have bishop b4 check. Gotham Chess says on every single video, you don't want to just make checks if the opponent can easily just block it with the pawn. Okay, but now, danger levels, right? Who cares about moving the bishop when you can attack a queen? Queen goes out of the way, and this allows mate in 1. Do you see the mate? I'm sure you do. This is called the opera mate, and it's with a bishop and a rook, but it's still the exact same mating pattern. If it were a rook, it would be this. It would still be a mate. This is called the opera mate because Paul Morphy played it in the famous opera game, and it is queen to d1 checkmate supported by the bishop. King can't go anywhere. That is a clean checkmate, but black decides to play pawn to h6, and now white has a breath of fresh air. White castles. Rook to e8. This bishop is still hanging, by the way. Okay, white sees it, and now white is up at +6. We have pawn to c6, pawn to f3, attacking the bishop. All right, you see, Ben Feingold says never play f3, but the thing Ben Feingold doesn't know about is you should always play f3 if it attacks the bishop. Okay, queen checks. Now, king goes out of the way. That is a free pawn, and the reason it's the best move here, actually, is because takes, and then, okay, let's say this bishop gets taken, then you take this. Now you're also threatening that, which is checkmate. But okay, bishop moves out of the way, and now queen moves up here. I couldn't tell you why. To protect this bishop that you could have just traded off, and that would have been better since you're at +6. Okay, now we trade this way. All right, you know what? Instead of the queen easily taking back and the pawn structure being intact and the king being super safe, we're going to compromise the king's safety. The king, need a little bit of breathing room, so we're going to give the king some breathing room. Okay, queen captures the pawn, fair enough. Unfortunately, this does allow this, which picks up the queen. But white decides to move the king. Why are you moving the king? white can move the knight, can move the bishop, can move the rook, can do anything. Even if you don't see that. Even if you don't see that, you have this knight that can move, you have this bishop that can move, and you're at +5. You know, if you move the bishop and you lose this, it's really not the end of the world, right? It's really not the end of the world. Like, let's say you play bishop here, which I don't think is that good of a move anyway, but let's say you play bishop there. Okay, computer says it's okay. Queen takes, and you can still develop your knight. Everything is protected. Everything is protected. Now, this does make it a little awkward with, like, this knight coming in and, like, the bishop, you know, is under attack, but everything is so protected, okay? Even if you don't see the bishop sacrifice. Moving the king to... Okay, now, you know what? Now I see why white captured like this. To move the king up 1 square to right here, okay? Okay, pawn to e4, beating a counterattack, and now this allows black to win a queen. Now black finds the check, and bishop takes, and there goes the queen. White had the opportunity with bishop takes, with with check and discovered attack on the queen. And now black says, I'll show you how it's done. Bam, bam, bam. And now black is completely winning. That's a fork at least. Solid fork. Unfortunately, it does lead to losing a rook. After rook checks, king goes out of the way, and mate in 3 is not happening. If you take this pawn, now you're threatening mate in 1. The only way to stop it is to sacrifice the rook. Bam. And now you can, there's really nothing that white could do here. Take the rook, and that's checkmate. So, just another mating pattern you can learn is having the queen next to the king that's protected on the edge of the board is a mate. Doesn't have any cool name, though. Actually, I think it's called the Kiss of Death. I'm wrong. It does have a cool name. Okay, rook to d8. We're going to develop this rook, all right? Okay, now finally the knight gets developed. Too bad it's mate in 7. Now, there's a rook trade being offered. Again, queen right here is devastating. Like, you're not defending the rook and defending mate at the same time, okay? So, okay, rook trade. Okay, decline the rook trade. Danger levels. Attack a queen. But, unfortunately, the bishop can just get taken by the pawn. So that's a free bishop. Now rook moves out of the way, and now this rook comes in, and now we have another popular mating pattern. This right here is going to be checkmate unless white can do something about it. There is no defense right now of that pawn. White has to defend. Unfortunately, that's not it. And there's a mate in 1 missed, right? This is a common checkmate pattern, actually. And when you have these 2 rooks on the 7th rank backing each other up, I don't know if this has a name, but oftentimes you can get the king trapped like this, and maybe you have the 2 rooks next to each other cutting off the king. You know, if this rook wasn't here. Another common mating pattern. But okay, so we'll have a trade. Oh, never mind. Rook's gonna go over here. You know, why take this bag? It's mate anyway. Okay, queen takes. Now you stop. Okay, attack the queen, and there's finally checkmate. So I guess we had like 4 missed mates in 1 instead of 7. But yeah, this is a pretty entertaining game, I thought.